It's not you. The job market is awful right now. I got a new job in tech last year, and this is a no BS video on how I landed 2 out of my 3 job offers broken down into 3 steps. I just got off the phone with a friend who's looking for a new job in tech this year, and this is pretty much exactly what I told her. So I just put a little more structure around it to tell you. When I was searching, I was looking at mostly tech jobs. So this applies to other industries too, but it's tailored specifically to tech. And when I was searching, I was also pivoting from working internationally at a much smaller company to bigger tech companies. So all of this advice is with career switching and pivoting in mind. The quick lowdown on my 3 job offers. I got the first one from messaging someone I had met once. He was an acquaintance, not a friend. He was working at a company that I was interested in, and even though he told me his team wasn't hiring, he said he'd pass my resume along to a coworker of his that he knew was hiring. I ended up doing a coffee chat with the coworker he recommended me to. We ended up hitting it off. I did a couple rounds of interviews and got a job offer out of it. This whole process took 2 months, but this was by far my dream job offer. It was almost exactly what I wanted to do in a product marketing related capacity. The second job I got from messaging a recruiter. So I went to business school, and I knew that this company, which was more of a big tech type, hired people from business school. So I found a recruiter from the company on LinkedIn. I cold messaged him saying I'd really want to work at the company and shared my resume. He was really kind. We did a coffee chat. It went well. And he told me that he would connect me with another recruiter. After speaking with that second recruiter, I ended up being able to interview for a role that I then got an offer for. The third job was the only job that I got from cold applying. So this is obviously important too, but the point I'm trying to make is I got 2 out of my 3 job offers without ever applying. And this is consistent with the statistic that 80% of jobs are never posted, which means that these jobs are filled by people who get referrals, apply internally, or do coffee chats with a recruiter. So with tech being more competitive than ever, those are the jobs that I'm gonna focus on helping you get. My process is 3 steps. Obviously, there are more than 3 things you need to do to get a job, but I really think that if you nail these 3 things, you are really putting yourself in the best position to get a job in terms of what you can control. I'm gonna assume that you already know what job or types of jobs you wanna do. If you want me to talk more about how to choose a role, let me know in the comments and I'm happy to make another video. I also made a video a couple weeks ago on the top 5 jobs in tech I would suggest for someone coming from a banking or strategic consulting background. And frankly, these jobs work for a lot of people pivoting into tech as well. So I would suggest taking a look at that if you need inspiration. So let's get into it. I promise this will be a short video, so I want to keep it brief. The first thing I need you to do is get really specific on what you want. So if you just say, oh, I want to work in tech and I'm happy doing any job, you're going to end up applying to hundreds of jobs and not getting most of them because your profile doesn't say to the recruiter or the interviewer that you really want that job. Right now, you might also know, I want to be a product manager or I want to work in strategy. And that's good, but I want to challenge you to get even more specific. I like to have something I call a mission statement in my job search. This means a very specific sentence on exactly what you want to do. So examples of this would be, I want to be a product manager at a Series A to C fintech startup in New York. See how specific that was? Or I want to work in corporate strategy at a big tech B2B software company based in San Francisco. See how I've got the role, the type of company, and the location? That's how specific I want you to get. So when I was searching last year, my mission statement was, I want to work in product marketing or go-to-market strategy at a later stage startup or a private company, preferably based in New York. So as you can see, I probably could have been even more specific with that in terms of the industry. From that mission statement, you can start to create a target list of companies, depending on whether you want to work at startups or bigger tech companies. And a great resource for this is honestly ChatGPT. If you tell it your mission statement, if you're looking for startups, especially more early stage companies that aren't as established, I would suggest a resource like Crunchbase, where you can get a free trial and you can not only see startups that fit your mission statement, but also ones that recently raised money and are hiring. The second thing I want you to do is make sure your resume is super tailored to the role. Now that you have that mission statement, you know exactly the type of job you want. Your resume needs to be tailored to that mission statement. So if your mission statement is, I want to work at A to C fintech startup in New York, I want a recruiter from that fintech startup to read your resume and say, this person was made for this job. They want to see that you have the key skills and experience for the role and that you have a track record of delivering strong results, even if you might not have direct experience in the role. And a recruiter usually spends seconds reviewing a resume, if not just running it through an automated tool. So you have to nail this. To make sure your resume stands out, you're going to rewrite the job titles on your resume with the target role that you have in mind. This is particularly important if you're applying for a job that you don't have direct experience in. So let's say you're a consultant and you're trying to pivot into tech as a product manager. So the first first thing you're gonna do on your resume is make sure the job titles on your resume reflect the role that you want to get. What I mean by that is if you're currently working as a consultant, but most of the work that you do is related to product management, I need you to slide product management into your job title. Even that if that's not your full job title, I want you to put it in parentheses or at least make it clear so that the person reading your resume knows, oh, this person already did this job. I know some of you might not have that, but really try. And then I want you to go and for your target role, which we specified in the mission statement, I want you to figure out what the top 3 to 5 most important transferable skills are for that role. I use AI for this. Here is the exact prompt that I use. I am applying to product manager jobs at B2C software companies. Here are 5 examples of job descriptions for my ideal role. Help me summarize the top 5 skills required for a successful candidate based on these descriptions. Include both hard and soft skills. And then obviously fill that in with your details and find job descriptions that are really close to the exact role that you want. And then once you do that and figure out what your transferable skills are, I want you to orient your entire resume around those transferable skills. I want it to be so clear to anyone who reads your resume that you have those skills, no doubt. Another really helpful thing to do is to make sure every single bullet on your resume is 1 to 2 lines and follows the X to Y format. What I mean by that is X is the action you did or the skill you utilized, and then Y is a quantifiable result. So when I was at business school, I used to review resumes for hundreds of my peers. This was by far the biggest mistake I saw on people's resumes, is that they didn't specify a clear action they did that resulted in a quantifiable positive change in the business. And this can be a revenue increase or a cost decrease. If you don't have quantifiable results, estimate it or honestly make it up. Your result should always have something to do with either directly or indirectly increasing the revenue of the business or reducing the costs. I'll give you a couple examples of good and bad resume bullets. This is bad because conducted data analysis is not a very specific action and there's no quantifiable impact because determining an appropriate course of action. I read that as if I'm hiring someone, I literally have no idea what you're saying. That could mean anything and it's just not very clear. If I were to revise that bullet, I might say something like built forecast to quantify market size and presented findings to CFO, recommended new business targets and reallocation of resources, resulting in an estimated 12% market share increase. This is a longer bullet. You can even shorten it more, but I just wanted to give you a sense of the amount of clarity and detail that you should have in every single one of these. Another example, a shorter bullet just to give you a sense. The bad one is recognized as a top manager among class. This isn't a brag sheet. I want to see your actual results. So how I might rewrite that is managed team of 12 engineers, promoted twice in 3 years and rated in top 10% of managers each year. I'm using a lot of numbers. I can see that this person is a great manager. This is just a quick and dirty on tech resumes just because I see people making these mistakes so much, but there's a lot more nuance and details to this. Let me know if you want a longer video on resumes down in the comments. I could talk about this for days. Now we're on to the 3rd step. You have your mission statement and your resumes, and now I need you to take all of that and go ask people for coffee chats. So if you're thinking right now, I have the resume, I know what I want, shouldn't I just apply? Yes. But only 1% of job applications get looked at. So yes, we're gonna apply, but we also have to be creative and think outside the box. And as I told you, this is how I got 2 out of my 3 job offers last year. So I think the proof is in the pudding. So if you wanna work at a company, but you don't know anyone who works there to refer you, you're gonna ask for a coffee chat or an informal networking call. Now, this can be with a recruiter, but I honestly find that recruiters don't respond as often to LinkedIn messages and emails because they're just so flooded with messages. I would rather you look for someone like the hiring manager or just an employee on the team you want to work with. I've done probably hundreds of coffee chats now in my life. And the crazy thing is, a lot of the time, by the end of the call, people will offer to refer you without you ever asking. So I'm going to give you some tips on how to actually get that coffee chat. Prioritize people you have mutuals with, went to the same school, worked at similar companies, or just have anything else in common, like you're from the same place or you had a similar career path. People are just more likely to respond. And it's because they probably get so many messages, they need some way of filtering out. I know I'm guilty of this. If someone has a very similar career path as me, I'm 10 times more likely to respond to them than someone more random. Make sure you keep your message short and to the point. Introduce yourself, mention anything you have in common right off the bat. Be really specific. Tell them exactly why you want to chat, whether it's a job opening or learning about their experience. You can use a template like this. Also drop some more examples down in the description that you can download and use directly. Here are also some examples of good and bad messages that I have actually received on LinkedIn. This is a great example of a message I received recently. It's super short and specific, and from someone who reached out because they were interested in a role that I had, and they also looked for a common affiliation, which was our school. This one is another example of a great message I received. I think it could be even shorter and more specific, but I responded to this one even though I had no common affiliation with them, just to show you that that works too. This is a less good message I received because saying something like learning about your company is not very specific. And I also think that asking a stranger to meet for coffee right off the bat is a little aggressive. Like, I don't know you, why would I meet you for coffee? This last example of a message, nice guy, very sincere message, but it's just so long. I don't even know you. Why would I give you the time of the day to read all of that? And make sure you don't put the scheduling burden on them. I usually say something like, I'm generally free Fridays, 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern time. I always use their time zone. Don't say something like this. Could you please share some time slots? No, I won't. The reason behind this is that people don't want to spend extra mental energy to figure out what their schedule is, coordinate with you. It's just much easier if you give them some time slots so they can look at their calendar directly. And I know you probably don't want to suggest slots because you don't want to sound rude and you want to be mindful of someone's schedule. So you can also add something like, I can be flexible around your schedule. Let me know if you have a scheduling link you prefer me to use instead. And then this one's a less important tip, but if you can, try to hit send during their lunch or afternoon. Wednesdays and Thursdays work well. Fridays and Mondays tend to be busier. Honestly, if you send a good message, this doesn't matter a ton, but it does help to catch people when they might be scrolling their phone while waiting in line to pick up food, or just a time when they're more likely to respond immediately. And then my last tip on getting the coffee chat is follow up. If they don't respond, just say something like, if a call isn't convenient, I'd love to ask you a few questions over email. More often than not, if your message was sincere and you also follow up, you'll at least get an email back, even if that person doesn't have time to chat with you. So I know a lot of these tips might sound harsh, but this is tough love, okay? I want to help you find a job, and I've been there with sending these lazy outreach messages, but they just don't work. A couple caveats and disclaimers is this advice does not apply if you're asking someone you already know for a referral. 99 times out of 100, if I know someone even tangentially in real life and you ask me for a referral, I will give it to you, no questions asked. Like, I don't need to coffee chat you because that's more time I need to spend. Another exception is if someone is posting on LinkedIn offering referrals, don't ask them for a coffee chat, just take them up on the offer. It's super nice of them. The last thing I would say on coffee chats is if you don't get a reply, it doesn't automatically mean your message was bad. People might just have hundreds of other messages in their DMs. I know I get overwhelmed a lot. And if you ever reached out to me and I didn't reply, please don't take it personally. Okay, and the very, very last thing on coffee chats is try to pay it forward. I've had people that I've spoken to because a friend of a friend asked me to speak to them, and I really try to do this as much as my schedule allows because you never know how it's going to pay off down the line. I've had people that I've crossed paths with in this way that I end up working with years later, or they recommend me for some other job. So that's just not getting the coffee chat. I think that everyone's situation and target role are so different. So once you get the coffee chat, I would just suggest being really curious, asking them good questions tailored to their background, asking about the company, asking about the role that you're interested in, just presenting yourself as someone who's eager, curious, willing to learn. And at the end, if the coffee chat goes really well, I would say something like, hey, let me know if there are ever opportunities to work at your company. The people and the culture sound great, and I would love that opportunity. That's your open door to them offering a referral, offering to connect you with someone else. And in fact, you can also ask that, is there anyone else you would suggest connecting with considering my interests? I would just play that by ear, but if you want more tips on that, let me know in the comments. So just to sum it up, remember those 3 things. Nail down your mission statement, make sure your resume is airtight for the role, and go ask for that coffee chat the right way. If you found this helpful, make sure to like and subscribe. I give tips every week on how to pivot and grow your career, especially in a tough job market. So you got this.